Back from the dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're all invited to go. The countdown has just begun. Are you ready? Let's go.
Now we're back from the dead.
You guys have to understand how dedicated I am to this because, hang on a second. It is May 1st on Sunday. I watched Deadly Possessions last night, but currently it is 5:24 in the morning. That's how hardcore I am. No, actually, so I watched Deadly Possessions last night, and I had some interesting information come up from one of the girls that's, a production assistant. I can't think, I'm so tired. So anyway, we went and filmed for like 3 hours, and I'm tired. I just got home and I was like, I didn't even finish filming. Like, it was such a big deal. Like, we got up and left and like didn't even finish what we were doing. I was getting ready to film this for you guys because I watched Deadly Possessions last night. But I have some really cool stuff that I'm like dying to share with you guys. And I can't because it's my video next week, so you have to stay tuned. It'll either be Monday's or Wednesday's video. I'm not completely finished shooting for it. We're going to have to go shoot some more footage tomorrow. I'm also doing uploads, I think Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Of course, I was like lame last week and didn't get Fridays up. And I'm sorry. I promise I will get on track with this. And I love you guys like sending me like ideas to do like tutorials. Like, I love knowing what you guys want to hear and what you want to see and all that stuff. Okay, let's move on. So who watched Deadly Possessions? Super creepy. And I just feel like they didn't, Zach did not touch on this guy enough. And I think that we need to kind of have a chat for a minute. What do you think? His name is Gein, okay? He is basically, an American killer / body snatcher. He actually did more body snatching than he did killing. But we kind of need to back up his story a little bit to see where he came from and why and like kind of what led into this, okay? Now we could like really dig into this dude's history and I really don't have the time for it, to be honest. Like, it sounds like he had, sadly, like some serious mental issues. Which is so sad because I hope that everyone can agree that one thing that lacks in this country and has always lacked in this country is, help for the mental illness, for the mentally, mental ill people here in the United States. And, back in like the early 1900s, 1950s, we have these horrible asylums that people are going into and they're being like horribly abused and tortured. So I'm assuming that's why nothing new has opened, because everyone, including the government, is terrified of horrible things happening like that again. That and money. I am not here to talk politics, though. Okay, so this guy named Ed grew up in Wisconsin. He grew up on a farm, basically, with his mother. His mom was, like, super, super religious, and she taught her children the Old Testament. I think he has like 2 or 3 other brothers, okay? I didn't dig enough to see where his dad was, what happened to his dad. Every single night, basically, his mother, Ed's mother, would read them from the Old Testament, these like horrible Bible verses that were like the worst Bible verses that were like graphic in nature, all the ones in regarding like death and murder. And so apparently this, his mom is like pounding into his head that women are no good and they're nothing but prostitutes, and women are basically sent from the devil to, make men become off track of what their life, sole focus and purposes should be, okay? So this guy is just pretty messed up. So for his whole life, he lives with his mom, and his mom is the only woman he really knows. And she was never abusive as far as like, he was never molested or anything like that, or at least that we know of, right? But So to him, his eyes, his mother was everything, because she basically scared him out of becoming a functioning member of society. In fact, it's said in multiple places online that anytime he would try to make friends, she basically discouraged him having friends. I don't know if that was like a selfish issue. Obviously, she must have had some sort of mental illness herself. As we know, sometimes mental illness can run through the family, and it can be a hereditary thing. So apparently, he was a really smart kid growing up. Apparently, he made really good grades. People in the town did consider him kind of like shy and withdrawn, but they knew he was like a fairly intelligent human being. He was really afraid of people, though, from what it sounds like. It sounds like his mother made him afraid to be a part of society, and that's what made him so withdrawn, was like, his mom had read him all of these horrible things that would happen to you if you went off the track of God and religion, and so he was kind of afraid, I think, of people in general. So at some point around 1945, Ed's mom died, okay? And I guess he lost it. Because he just wasn't functioning, he wasn't a part of society. He had been led so much by his mother and, this Old Testament of religion, that he didn't really know what to do with himself. So he was kind of like a wanderer and lost for a couple of years, until around 1947 he started this whole body snatching process. So at some point around 1947, something snapped inside of Ed's head, and he was like, you know what? I miss my mom. She's been gone for a couple of years. So what I'm going to do, I'm not even kidding, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically rebuild my mother. Ed starts basically scoping out the graveyards, and, they're like burying middle-aged women, and after the funeral ends, he would basically wait till nightfall came, and it was before like the actual body was completely buried, and because it's a process, as we all know. So Ed would go into the grave and he would unbury the grave, however deep it was. He would either remove the whole body and use the whole body, or sometimes he would replace parts of the body later. So that means he would make another trip back to the graveyard and drop off the parts that he didn't need or whatever, and then he would rebury it. And it said that every single time by morning, the grave looked as if it did the night before, the previous night. So all of these people have no idea that their loved ones are being taken and being used, basically. So the first question that has come up, of course, at least, I can't be the only one, is, was he sleeping with these bodies? Is he one of those that's like, he likes to sleep with the dead or whatever? And apparently he was interviewed by the police when he was finally caught. And, quote, "No, I did not sleep with the bodies because they smelled too bad." So I don't know if that means that if they didn't smell bad, he would have. Maybe he did. I don't want to know. So Ed actually only confessed to killing 2 women, okay? They did do there wasn't a lot of DNA back then, but obviously they did take samples of all of the skin selection that they had. In 1957, a woman named Bernice disappeared. She was the owner and worker at a local hardware store where Ed actually lived, okay? And the reason that they were able to track Ed was he was the very last customer that came in, and there was actual receipt with his name on it, okay? So the police couldn't find Bernice, and they go, well, he must have had something to do with it because he was the last person in here. So they go over to Ed's house, and that's when they started finding all of this strange stuff. I do have to just be honest with you guys because I'm going to get into some graphic details. So if you're not wanting to listen to this, this is probably a good time to either not listen or whatever you want to do. But there is something about this while I was listening to this, and Zach didn't go into detail, I'm assuming, because the Travel Channel. But there's something about this guy and listening to these stories that actually made me feel physically sick. I don't know if it's the fact that he maybe did cannibalism, or the fact that he was basically skinning people and he was a professional at it. There's just something about it that just makes me so sick about that, because the creepy part is although he had mental illness, for someone to be able to do that and disassemble bodies, he had to be somewhat intelligent. You know what I mean? not everybody can do that. Not only like emotionally, but like physically, like that can't be an easy job to do, like, you know, removing bones and removing skin and stuff. And for him to be doing it over and over again. So let's just get into the details of Bernice. So once the police got into Ed's property, they asked him to search it. They actually went outside. They started outside and they went into Ed's shed, and they had found a body that had been decapitated and it was hanging upside down. Basically her hands, her wrists, and her ankles had been bound. And her entire torso had basically been kind of gutted, basically, like if you were to go deer hunting or elk hunting or something like that. In fact, the police actually thought at first that it was an actual animal, until they started really looking at her and realized that there were hands and arms and feet and legs and stuff like that. They discovered that she'd been shot with a .22 caliber rifle, but I guess luckily for her, all of the mutilations, and disassemble things that he had done did not happen until after she died. So at least, you know, she wasn't suffering by being pulled apart, you know, while she was alive. Thank God for that. So basically, Ed was doing this stuff for about 4 to 6 years is what they're estimating, until he was finally caught. So the main, you know, the next question is why is he doing this? What's the purpose of him doing this? Was he just disassembling the body? You know, why is he doing this? So Ed claims that most of the time when he would do like the body snatching, it was always to middle-aged females. However, they did find some male body parts, if you know what I mean, inside of his house. But the main goal that he was doing, I'm having like a really hard time like talking about this. Like I feel like I keep losing my voice because it's just I think my empath stuff is kicking in, and like stories like this that are so gloomy and dark and violent, like they just make me physically sick. So he was taking the women, and like I said, they were mainly middle-aged women, including the 2 women that he claims he killed. And he was skinning them, and he was basically creating a see, I'm losing my voice. He was basically creating a female bodysuit, and he was trying to replicate it as close as he could to his mother. So one of the main things that they did find, I'm so sorry guys, like I don't know what's going on. It's gotta be like, I don't know if it's making my like empathy sick, or like I'm telling you guys, my empathy kicks in hardcore when like I'm investigating and stuff. So one of the main things that they did find inside of his house was a basically skin bodysuit from feet to like chest. It went to about right here, and it was open in the back. And basically he told investigators that he wanted to wear his mother's skin. So this skinned suit, he was literally able to step into it. It had been human skin that had been sewn up. It was all of these different body parts from different women, and that's what was taking him so long to build the suit, was because this woman might have, you know, the arms of his mother that reminded him of his mother, but she didn't have the legs that reminded him of his mother. So he's just trying to collect all these skinned body parts. It was really gross. Ed admitted that he robbed 9 bodies, basically. It was 9 bodies that he disassembled. They really didn't... My God, this is crazy. They really didn't have a way to detect that, because they didn't have like DNA and stuff back then. This is so hard for me to get through, guys. Like, I can't even tell you. I don't even know what the deal is. With my empathy and stuff, certain things like get me more than others. Like when I'm investigating, like if there's like a haunted location, and like the top things that really like get me like this, that make me physically sick, are like animal abuse. Like if there was somebody that was just like torturing or mutilating animals, when someone was doing this to people, like cannibalism or like torturing them and like skinning them, that stuff really makes me sick. Child molestation, you know, that kind of stuff makes me sick. Anything where like an innocent being is being like tortured or like mutilated, my body reacts this way. So you guys are actually getting to see like the way my empathy works literally like firsthand when it's something like this. This is like a serious case to me, and it's like, it's almost like my body doesn't even want me to talk about it. Anyway, he admitted to, robbing 9 graves, 9 bodies. Although there wasn't DNA, they couldn't really test to see where the skin all came from. Basically, if he would use this woman's feet or hands or whatever, he didn't want to waste the rest of her skin. So he started like building lamps, and he had like a trash can that was made out of human skin, and a lot of really weird things. I think he had human skulls on every single bedpost at his house. He had made like one single lamp of like a vertebrae, which is like the very base of your spine, all the way up to like the neck, and the pelvis was also attached. And it was this huge, bone lamp basically, and had the shade on top. And he had like actually converted it into like electricity. So like really weird stuff. Very like macabre, So the investigators did quiz him, and they wanted to know like which, tell me which bodies that you took. So he actually did take them to the exact locations or graves of these people. A couple of the caskets were completely empty. A couple of them, the people actually were still inside, and he said that he could not exhume their bodies because he had forgotten his crowbar that night. And a couple other times he had actually removed the body and then took back the valuables of like jewelry. If the person was buried with jewelry, he would take the jewelry back, and he would take certain body parts back, he said, so that the family could still like mourn the loss of that person. Super, super weird stuff. Apparently, they didn't really go into a lot of detail from what I could find, but they did ask Ed, why he was making a bodysuit of his mother, of like the replica of his mother. And he said, one, he wanted to actually wear her skin because he felt so alone without her since she had died. And the other reason is he had some sort of really weird transvestite ritual that he would do. I don't really know what that is. So if anybody, has researched it or knows what it is, and you feel like sharing, please do. I don't know if I want to know, but maybe some of the other followers want to know. So the next question was, the investigators and the police started quizzing him, saying, Ed, man, why'd you do this? What is this about? We know that you're upset that your mother's gone. You were really close with her, and there was some sort of like mental illness in the family, and obviously she was very, mentally abusive and controlling, but why are you really doing this? And he would say stuff like he didn't remember the actual act of it happening. He said he basically would go into a fog he would remember showing up at the grave and either digging it out or not having the crowbar. But then after like removing the body, taking it home, disassembling the body, skinning the body, removing, I'm so sorry, you guys, God. Removing organs, and putting the organs in like bags and saving them for later. They do think he may have partaken in some sort of cannibalism act. He didn't admit it, but they couldn't prove it. He basically said he would just black out until it was all over. And he just said he didn't remember any of that part. He was put through numerous psyche evaluations, and obviously they determined that he was mentally ill. He was put in an asylum after that. He was found guilty, but he was also found legally insane. In 1984, he ended up getting cancer in his liver, and then he had respiratory failure, and he ended up dying in the psych ward. So, inside of Wisconsin, it's Plainfield Cemetery is where he was buried. Apparently, there were people that were really angry with the things he had done. There were investigators. There were people that were just nosy about the life of him. Apparently there had been a couple of people that had actually tried to exhume his body as well. They were having issues because of his, the state had paid for his marker, his grave marker and all that stuff. But eventually, either in the late 80s, early 90s, they did remove his headstone because it was getting so much foot traffic going on, and they did not want his grave disturbed. So now, technically, no one really knows, other than the state of Wisconsin, where Ed is buried, for the safety of his body not being exhumed. They didn't really want it tampered with, I guess. So what kind of pop culture impact did this have? Actually, giant, okay? So the movie Psycho, of course, was totally made from part of this. The Bates Hotel, you know, that was obviously a series that just came up. The Silence of the Lambs character, Buffalo Bill, who kidnapped and skinned women in order to make a suit to become a woman, was inspired by Ed. And also, you know, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a separate case, but they did cross over with Ed to make it a little bit more dramatic. I don't know the full Texas Chainsaw Massacre history, but Ed definitely kind of crosses over with this. So the next question is, what exactly did the police find? And I actually have a freaking list. It wasn't limited to this list, okay? Some things were not recorded. Let's hope I can get through this, you guys. So human bones and fragments were found throughout the house. There was an actual wastebasket that was made of human skin. There was human skin that was covering several seat chairs as like covers. There were skulls on every single bedpost. He had female skulls with some of the tops sewn off. He would use them as like cups or sometimes even bowls. He also had bowls that were made of human skin that he ate out of. He had a corset that was made of a female torso. They believe he may have made this to help with the bodysuit of his mother that he created. He had leggings that were made of human skin that they believe he may have worn while he was actually doing the skinning and disassembling. He had a lot of masks that he had used from every single, you know, female head that he had. That he had kind of dried out, and he would sometimes use the mask if he wanted to appear like the other women. Mary Hoggins' skull in a box, and that was the first woman that he had killed. Apparently she was kind of like a trophy prize for him because she was his first official kill. They found Bernice's entire head actually that was still in a sack from when it had been decapitated. Ed had put Bernice's heart in a plastic bag that was near the stove that Zach has, and they're not sure if he was actually going to eat it or not. They believe he had actually been a body snatcher of some young girls as well. They found some dresses of some young girls and body parts that were of premature girls, so between the ages of like 13 and 15. Zach was right when he said he had a belt that was made of human nipples. He had noses stashed throughout the house. He had a pair of lips on the window shade drawstring, so on this part basically. He had a few lampshades that were made of human faces, and then he had fingernails from multiple females. So after the authorities basically took all of this stuff out, took it into the location to do all this crime scene evidence, they didn't really know what to do with it, so it's believed that it was disintegrated and destroyed. They felt like, you know, most of the time evidence will be kept inside of, you know, police station or for criminal liability or whatever. And they said that they didn't want that to be around. They felt like they needed to, you know, be able to give these people proper burials, crossing over, whatever. Crossing over, whatever. That's super weird. Super weird, super weird, super weird, super weird. I swear I feel like I just started to get like a nosebleed, guys. Hang on a second. I don't know what that was about, but my nose isn't bleeding. So I had some people that trolled me on Instagram on Ghost Girl Diaries that basically said that I should not be putting hate out there for Ed because he had a really hard time growing up and a really bad childhood. And I will agree with that. He had a shitty, parent, obviously, that tried to control and manipulate him. And it seems like there was some sort of a mental illness that ran in the family and nobody was ever, cared for properly for that. And that is sad. It's sad that that's still going on today as far as mental illness and we can't get people help. But, not everyone that's mentally ill is running around scalping and skinning people and decapitating people and hanging them upside down like a dead piece of meat. So with that said, do I feel bad for Ed or do I feel bad, more for the victims of Ed? And it's definitely the victims because thank God, they were all presumably dead, obviously, when these horrible things were happening to them. But I understand he had a hard time growing up. I understand he had mental illness, but there was no excuse, for scalping, skinning people like this. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of. Do I think the cauldron is haunted or whatever? Well, they did do like the spirit box session. I think honestly I would have felt better if the spirit box session with Zach and Aaron would have happened and a male voice came through, because then you would have known it was Ed. And sadly, it sounded like a female voice or females were coming through, which means it could definitely be one of his, or 2 or 3 of his victims. And that part made me really sick. Zach is definitely brave for owning something like that. And the gentleman that, Zach was interviewing told Zach, Zach said, should I be afraid to own this? Do you think that I should have something like this in my house? And I think the best quote I've ever heard came out of that guy's mouth, which was, his quote said, "You're knocking on the devil's door and don't be surprised if he answers." Would I own that cauldron? Absolutely not. I wouldn't own any of this stuff though, to be honest. Like, I get that Zach's making money off of this and he's turning it into a show, but I prefer the light side. I don't prefer the dark side. And, although I've worked with Zach, I think he's a great guy and stuff, but I'm not interested in dipping my toe in the dark pool. I think I'll pass. So the next thing that Zach had was the crying boy painting, okay? And this is from England. It's been this long chain of events that's from England that supposedly has been causing fires and problems for decades because of a curse. So here's the cool thing. I have this really awesome friend. He's one of my best friends, and he lives in England, okay? He grew up and he lives in England. He's actually a detective in England, and there's a super big shout out to Rory. I love you, Rory. You're so awesome for, taking my messages randomly. Rory is super cool. There was a point that I was actually going to be going to England a couple years ago to investigate, and Rory can actually get access to the Jack the Ripper files, and he was going to get access for me. So someday I will make it over there to see him. In fact, Rory's coming over in a month, which is super exciting, Rory. Can't wait to see you. But let's get back on track. But without Rory, we would not know what was going on with the crying boy. Okay, so the crying boy, supposedly it's this myth that this photo is this little orphan boy. And he was all alone, and so this curse was set that basically anyone that had this photo or even the replica, if they take it home, their house would be set on fire and everything would be on fire other than the actual picture of the boy, okay? So I wrote Rory, because now take in mind, this dude, one of my greatest friends, he likes paranormal too. He's really into all this stuff. Plus he gets to kind of be a part of it on the legal side of it because he's a detective. So I said, "Hey, Rory, what do you know about the crying boy painting in England? Do you believe it's real?" And he said, "It's actually to be a proven myth. It was a shitty mass-produced painting in the 1880s, and it was super popular in houses where people were likely to have chip pan fires and cigarette ends, etc. It was printed on compressed board, so it's really hard, if not impossible, to burn, okay? You should dig out the 90s TV show that we had over here called Fortean TV, Fortean TV. It was an awesome paranormal show by this presenter that's a biker priest. Apparently he did, basically this dude in England did this huge investigation on it, okay? I haven't found the actual episode. I was reading up on it though. And so this guy like hired scientists so they were able to like study it and test it. They did actually set one on fire on BBC, and it like they had it on fire for until the fire ran out, and it just made like a black mark across it. Didn't even get on fire. So like what Rory's saying, that it is actually made out of items that cannot burn, and it's because back in the 1800s, they would have burning chip stoves, and if something were to get on fire, they didn't want this great picture to get on fire, so it was almost like fireproof. So the next question is, why is it this cursed thing? Like this girl was on, Zach's show talking about the fact that she had, that her house was set on fire twice and all this stuff. Her MacBook blew up and everything. I don't really know. You guys can say it's a coincidence. Rory says there's been studies into it. I also have kind of dug up that it seems like maybe when people obtain this picture, they're kind of feeding into this frenzy as far as like causing certain explosions or fires themselves. All the fires haven't actually been inside. So that definitely might proclaim that, it was in the barn and the barn set on fire, but everything didn't burn but the picture. Well, also remember, it's been made out of products that are basically burn proof. So do I believe in this story? I mean, it's a great theory. It's really creepy to think that this little boy, is cursed or whatever. Do I think that it's real? I don't know. I mean, that's a big extreme to me to say that that a photo could do that. I'm not saying that. I don't think it's an ugly photo. I think he looks like a really cute, sweet, innocent boy, to be honest. It doesn't look scary to me. She said that she talked badly about the picture and badly about the photo, and that's when the explosions happened. I mean, I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Some people would say it's creepy. I don't really think it's creepy. It just looks like a painting of a little boy. Could it happen? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I would take it lightly by putting it in my house with, items like filming, Zach's brave for putting it in his museum when he, obviously has a lot of money for it. So who knows? That's just my opinion. I don't really know if I'm a huge believer in this theory, to be honest. Especially, my friend Rory, he grew up there, and, he said this is a huge thing that a lot of locals know about and talk about. But he said that it's been so debunked so many times because they've actually brought in paranormal investigators, scientists, and even police investigations to try to, debunk this, and it's been debunked. So what's my opinion on this episode of Deadly Possessions? What's my critique? I honestly feel like this is the very first episode where Zach isn't like putting on a show. I felt like before, like the last few episodes, he's been really trying hard, and he almost was putting on like a fake personification, and it was coming out really wrong. He seemed like it seemed staged, and I was really concerned about that, because if he's just honest, he's himself, talks about these items, talks about the museum, that's all people really want to know. People don't want this big lavish kind of lie, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I think he's doing great. Thought this was the best episode yet, and I cannot wait to share with some other new stuff that will be coming out next week. So make sure you stay tuned to my channel. Please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Please leave me good comments below, and I will catch you guys next time. What's up, guys? I came in to edit today. It's Sunday, and I have literally had nothing but problems with my editing software, and I just kind of wanted to show you what was going on. I'm dressed down today. It's Sunday. Usually I just like edit and hang out at the office, so let me show you guys. Hang on a second. So I don't know how many of you actually edit or can edit or whatever, but basically this is Adobe Premiere. So this is where you view your footage. It's like the viewfinder. This is the area that you access your files or import your footage is right here. And then these are your effects. And then this is the side that you actually will remove any of the footage you want from this window down into this window. So, and then this is the preview screen of basically your finished product. So currently I'm editing, so this is basically my timeline right here. Right now we are at like 36 minutes, okay, of timeline. This is my review for Deadly Possessions. It was just on last night. What is today? May 1st is today's date right there. So, okay, I'm having some editing problems, and it's super, super weird what's going on right now. So there's a part in this video last night when I was shooting that I started to get a nosebleed. And I know you guys have seen all of that. So if you, you can actually scroll through the video footage, and this is where you see the files. You can actually see like the chunks of footage right here. But for some reason in certain files, it is not allowing me to see the file footage. So if I like zoom in, so you can, if I'm zoom out, you can't see that file, but when I zoom in, this particular file you can see, and this one is basically blank. You cannot see it. I don't understand why it's doing that. I've had complications all morning with this, and actually I just found an EVP on here that I had captured last night, and I didn't even know that I had caught it. I have had nothing but problems all day. This has been horrible. So I'm recording on my iPhone just because it's easier right now than like setting up all of the camera work and whatnot. But I did not realize I was going to be basically getting a bunch of EVPs and then have to put all that stuff, you know, like edit basically an episode of Ghost Girl Diaries. I had no idea that I had caught a bunch of EVPs. I know that a lot of you guys probably have a lot of questions, and I thought I would just answer a couple of them for you. So last night, when I was watching Deadly Possessions, for some reason Ed and the story of Ed like really affected me really badly, and I don't know why. Like, you guys saw that I was like actually getting sick when I was recording my review, and I was like coughing, and like I haven't been sick or anything like that, so it was really weird. I actually was sitting on the couch when I was watching Deadly Possessions, and it felt like the only way I can explain it is that somebody had hit me in the back of the leg with like a baseball bat. And so I assumed that like maybe I had tripped and fell, and I tried to remember, and so I looked at the back of my leg and there was no bruise or anything like that, but it was so bad that by the time Deadly Possessions was over, I was actually like limping out of the room, and it ended up going away after a few hours, so I don't know, that had to have, you know, been correlating with him somehow. So the other thing that it could have contributed to, I wasn't really going to tell you guys until next week, but my team is super awesome. The guys that work with me on my production staff, they actually did end up finding Zach's museum, and we went and filmed there a little bit last night. So next week I will have some really super awesome footage for you guys. I'm not going to release the address just because if it were me, I wouldn't want the address released to my business, and I do have like 100,000 followers on Twitter, and most of you guys are paranormal enthusiasts, and you know, I wouldn't want a bunch of people to go and show up at Zach's place and he gets upset like knowing somebody released the address to the public. But I'm not sure if all of these problems are contributed to how I was like so affected by Ed. And obviously I didn't know him or his story before last night. I've heard of it, but not in detail. Or was it somehow correlated with me going to the museum last night? We went super late, nobody was there, and I'll show you guys that footage next week. But there's definitely been something in the studio today. My electronics are all being affected. My editing software is being affected. And I even went to just record this silly video on my phone, and my iPhone 6 was like giving me the middle finger. So I have no idea what's going on. I'm tired anyways. I should have had this video up posted for you guys hours ago, but this has been like a complete freaking war today. So stay posted for next week. I have no idea what this is from, but I definitely think something is following me at the moment, so I'm gonna have to try to get rid of it in the next couple hours here. So stay tuned, guys. Thanks for watching, and sorry this was such like a weird YouTube video. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
We're back from the dead. Back from the dead. Back from the dead.